Good evening, everyone. Uh, Time is 6:04. We are at an instructional committee meeting for the United ISD Board of Trustees. We are present at 201 Lindenwood in Laredo, Texas. Item number 1A1. These are action items to be reviewed at the next regular board meeting on January 23rd with recommendations to be made by the instructional committee. Number 1, adopt resolution adopting employee separation from employee incentive to full-time district employees for the 2018-19 school year.
Well, we've done this for the last 4 or 5 years, and this allows us to be able to look at anybody that's going to retire as we look at staffing. And I think it'll help us on the staffing areas. I think last year, I think we spent about $66,000. But at the same time, I think as we look at vacancies, it helps us, either fill the slot or, if we don't need it, then allows us to reshuffle staff.
Number A2, approval to implement a pilot program to provide virtual mental health consultations for high school students.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Montemayor, Mr. Santos, and members of the audience. I come before you tonight to bring about some information on a Dial Care telemedicine program that we received some information on. Dial Care is a response to Governor Abbott's school shooting response plan. It incorporates a high-impact telehealth program with a focus on mental and behavioral health assistance to all school districts throughout the state. It provides a sophisticated and effective telehealth solution, leveraging both technology and improved access to care that aligns with the governor's desire to provide mental health evaluations that identify students at risk of harming themselves and others. Okay. Dial Care offers a 30-minute virtual counseling session with licensed professional counselors 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. via phone, video, or secure chat. In Laredo, we are very limited on some of our resources for counseling outside, so I believe this is a wonderful opportunity for some of our students, especially nowadays that students love their phones and are very attached to it. It's also easy access to counselors, so I think it's a good idea. They are behavioral health counselors that work with such conditions as depression, stress, eating disorders, addiction, relationships, anxiety, grief, and more. It's really not a suicide hotline crisis. They are a Texas-based company that leverages nearly 40 years of direct relevant industry experience. They're regulated by and in good standing with the Texas Department of Insurance. They are on track to serve nearly 500,000 members by the end of 2018. Students may schedule an appointment with a licensed and trained mental health or behavioral health specialist, again, between the hours of 7 and 10, 7 days a week. They are allowed to speak to the same counselor if they, let's say they called the first time, they were able to talk to some counselor, they really liked that counselor. They're able to scheduled appointments with that same counselor at another time. And if they don't like that counselor, the same opportunity, they get to choose maybe another person to speak to. Okay? And if the student is in crisis, the Dial Care consultant will refer the student to a crisis counselor and stay on the line to actually transfer the student to the appropriate hotline for further help. The company is able to engage with the school district to ensure program adoption. In other words, they will meet with, they'll do PTA meetings if we need them to. They will help us with marketing tools such as posters, PTA flyers, email campaigns to promote the program, just to get the word out, in other words. As you can see, there's a need for it. There are mental health statistics. 1 out of 5 adolescents has a diagnosable mental health disorder, and only 50% ever receive the help that they need. Nearly 20% of teens seriously consider suicide each year. 1 in 12 each year attempt suicide. In 2014, an estimated 2.8 million adolescents had at least one depressive episode in the past year. That's 11.4% of the entire adolescent population of the U.S., 1 in 10 of all teens. And 1 in 4 children in the U.S. are affected by an anxiety disorder. 80% are never treated. And 35% of teens are affected with ADHD and have used 1 or more substances. So our proposal is that we pilot the Dial Care program at United High School and United High School 9th grade campus. Sorry, I put annex, I'm old school, Nixon annex. For 1 year at no cost to United ISD. Teachers and staff, we would hope to have them trained possibly this February. Students and parents will be informed also in February if it is approved by the board. And implementation will begin, we'll try to hope as early as March if it's approved. And we would be able to gather data and benefits of the program. And let's say, for example, if there is a certain situation that would require them reporting maybe to child abuse hotline, if they needed to report to CPS, for example, they would notify the school and the school district of something like that within their rights of HIPAA, FERPA, and that.
So, but if I may, this by no means replaces, obviously, our counselors at our campuses. It's supplemental to help our students, and again, being home in the evening all the way to 10 o'clock.
What kind of, do we have to meet a quota? Do we have to, what kind of referral do they want from us? You know, just, for it to be a successful pilot, I'm sure there has to be some activity.
Right.
Do our counselors need to meet a quota?
No, sir. They didn't talk about that at the meeting that we had with them. They would actually give us data as to how many students called in, how we were, you know, how did we do, and things of that sort. They would provide us with data.
That's my other question. What kind of confidentiality do they have with the students? If, let's say they do identify somebody who is going to, you know, take a gun to school the next day.
Right.
How do we, you know, get informed? What kind of information exchange do we have with that program?
And like I said, those would be situations where they would immediately call the school district and let us know. Something like that, they would definitely.
And if I may, we did pose those questions. These are licensed counselors. If they choose it like that, they are bound. They have to notify the campus again.
If they're going to harm themselves or others, they do need to notify us. And for the initial, I guess, assessment, if let's say a student happens to see a flyer and calls in, they don't need parental consent for the very first assessment. Like, they can speak to a counselor. Once the counselor assesses the student and feels that they are going to have counseling, or maybe, you know, seek several counseling sessions, then they do have to have parental consent from the parent to say, you know, I approve of you speaking to my child on a regular basis.
Has it been used elsewhere? Any other districts that you know of that are using this, and are they successful with this kind of program?
I believe that started in Frisco, is that correct?
Right,
Frisco.
outside of Dallas.
That's, they're just piloting
That's really one
it
of
as
the
well.
governor's initiative, and obviously we can't afford to, you know, to get into it, but at this point, it's a pilot, and it's free.
I know now they have a lot of virtual medical diagnosis and consultations where you can even get medication right online, so I figured.
Yes, they're actually, well, we do that with our Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then they're doing that also at CAPS, for example. When students go in, since we only have maybe one psychiatrist in Laredo, they're doing these virtual
Diagnosis
right, and sessions with them, so to get medication and things of that sort. So
Sounds
it's
good.
for your consideration.
Sure.
Thing, but
I think it sounds like a good thing.
Yes.
All right.
thank you
ma'am.
very much.
And this will really be for finishing this year, but it's really more for 1920 school year.
Okay.
It was at least a full year.
B1, is there items to be reviewed by the instructional committee for information only? Number 1, early college, high school programs update.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Montemayor, Mr. Santos, members of the audience. Today I bring to you some information that I'd like to share about the early college high schools. As you know, we have 2 programs that are identified and designated by TEA. So we have Laredo College as our partner, early college, Ms. Yesenia Sandoval, and we have Ms. Claudia Gonzalez here for Blicia. If you look at our numbers for the class of 2019. We're very excited that this is the first graduating class for the early college program. If you look at the numbers at the very top, we have 126 in the first cohort, 135, 142, and 141. We usually start with 150 kids at the beginning of the cohort. By the time we register them at the beginning of the year, we have about 145 or so. And throughout the 4 years, we lost about 20 kids that first year. Most of them either went back to their home campus, or they moved districts, or they moved out of town. We do have a few handful that maybe the program was a little bit too rigorous and they ended up withdrawing from the program, but we still monitor those students. So these are just our basic demographics for our kids. You notice 83% of our first graduating students, 83% are first year college goers. Program updates, we have, we have the majority of our students have already passing their end of course exams. We do have one student that is a senior, if you notice on 126, that hasn't passed her English 1. However, she will be receiving her associate's degree through the college, because she is still, when she took her TSI, she didn't pass her reading, but she still did the developmental course, so she's really pushing at it. So that student, even though she didn't pass the English 1 and she still will be graduating from high school, she will be receiving her associate's degree as well. So these are our numbers for EOC. These are our TSI numbers. When we talk about TSI, freshman year, you don't need your TSI for your freshman courses, but you do need your reading and your writing by the time you take your courses sophomore year. If students don't pass by the end of freshman year, then in their sophomore year, we continue to test them. And at the end of their sophomore year, we do what's called the developmental implementation, where the Laredo College will provide them with some summer instruction. They take the 1301 followed by that, and then they can go on course with the remaining courses. So these are our numbers here for our different cohorts. I know it's not in, is it in color up there? But if you look at your screen, everything in green is the actual college courses that are being offered throughout the 4-year plan. Here's our graduating class for our first cohort. These are the number of hours they take per year, 10, 12, 15, and 23. This is a year that is the most difficult for these students, as they're taking their 2 literature English courses, they're taking their biologies, their labs, and their college algebra, aside from everything else they're involved with. So projected number of students to graduate high school with 60 college credit hours, and their associates is 102 students, so we're very proud of that. Then we have students with greater than 50 college hours is 12, and then you have 40 college hours is 12 as well. And so what happens here is you have students that are passing the TSI or getting their college readiness to continue the program later within their years, so that we try to provide them all the implementations possible to give them as many college hours before they graduate. And these are the kids that will be graduating on May the 10th. We're excited about that. This is also the first year for Laredo College. It's their first ever early college campus. And then we have our Blicia. This is our Associates of Science. These are our numbers. We have 91 and 96 respectively, and our demographics for that group. Then we have our numbers, our 2 cohorts. I know that we just received some scores, so that we can definitely upgrade them by hopefully the end of this week, and we can email this report with the new numbers. But we do have the majority of the kids almost ready to complete their EOCs. And I know that for English 1, we only had 9 pending based on the fall results. I believe 2 pending in algebra and 2 pending in bio. Here's our TSI for this group as well. 91%, 100% writing, 85, we are missing 6 students. They still have this year to continue to test so that they can continue with their courses as well. This is their 4-year plan, and anything that's highlighted is their college credit hours that they're taking. And then for these kids, we have the first cohort on track in earning their 6 credit hours the first year, as TSI is not required, and we have 83 students out of the 85 that already passed the TSI that are on track to get their first 21 hours from the last year and this year. And this just shows you we're currently going through the recruitment along with the magnet programs. As you know, students do not have criteria. They are on a blind selection, students who are interested. This is the schedule, the postcard that went out to the parents. Application deadline is January 23rd, and the lottery will be held February the 13th. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
No, ma'am. Very good.
Thank you.
On the B2, the proposed boundary changes for various campuses, I noticed it's also part of the Business Instructional Committee.
Yes, sir.
Rather leave it for that committee, if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any public comments? Okay, we're adjourned.